Okay, recap for day number 1 of groups of the Charlotte Major. They just wrapped up about 5 minutes ago, so let's take a look at what happened. Instead of going in chronological order, we're just going to look at how all of the groups shook out by the end of the day. So we're going to start with Group A, Oxygen, Team 1, and Dire Wolves. This is, of course, the group that had Elevate, no longer has Elevate, so it's the one group that only has 3 teams. As a result, over the course of the 3 days, there are only 6 games as opposed to 12 games in each other group. Okay, so you could see Oxygen and Team 1, 3 points apiece, and Dire Wolves on no points. And Oxygen leading the group, they have the 3 points, same as Team 1, but Team 1 has played 2 games instead of 1 game. So Oxygen, I think, are the only team after today to have not missed out on any points, but, I mean, as opposed to most other teams in the tournament, they've only played the 1 game. I think everyone else has played 2, except for Dire Wolves. So, right, I think this is how the group is expected to shake out. I think most people have Oxygen and Team 1 getting out, and maybe some people have Dire Wolves instead of Team 1, but I do think this is pretty well the anticipated result. And I guess we'll just look at the games in particular. Team 1 beating Dire Wolves 7-2. I think that was a little bit surprising. Team 1 came out of the gates kind of hot, and then Oxygen beating Team 1 in not a close game, but not a blowout like 7-2. And all right, let's move on to Group B. Okay, so this group is neck and neck. Everyone got 1 win and 1 loss, all of them in regulation, so no overtime. It's basically a wash, but I suppose Team Liquid comes out on top because they have the highest round differential that could come into effect by the end of things. So, right, that's 2 games down for each of these teams, so they each need to play 4 more. So, considering they're all tied on points, it very well could come down to round differential for some amount of the placements, maybe even to determine who makes it out of the group and who doesn't. And looking at the games in particular, so CAG over XSET, I think it was slightly surprising. I think maybe XSET was a little bit the favorite. Maybe that's not true though. I want to say that more people have XSET making it out of the group than CAG, and that might not be true either. That's just sort of what I've seen, but it could be the other way. I think there's a lot of reasons to pick CAG. They have a lot more experience than XSET, but in all of the time that they've gotten all of the international experience, they have never made it out of groups. So, and it's also, I think, really difficult to play CAG for the very first time, and this is XSET's first time playing CAG, and even their first game in the tournament. So, not a super unexpected result, and we'll see how they fare in the rematch. CAG usually gets figured out over time, so maybe XSET will do better in the second time that they play them. And then Liquid dismantled CAG. I think a little bit surprising because CAG looked pretty good here, but it was a bit circumstantial, and this gave us a little bit more context. And then XSET taking down Furia, not a huge surprise, but I mean, I thought Furia was going to take it. I have Furia making it out of the group over XSET, and I mean, it's still all entirely possible, again, because of all the 3 points. But XSET taking a close game versus Furia. And then based on everything that had happened, XSET destroying CAG, and then CAG beating XSET, but XSET beating Furia, it seemed like probably Liquid should beat Furia here, but to complete the the square or whatever, Furia defeated Liquid, and that was the very last match of the day. So a little bit surprising. Maybe things will turn around in the rematch. Bad day or bad match for Liquid. Obviously not a bad day because they got this 7-2 beatdown, but a little bit weird that the results went this way. So again, everybody beating somebody else, no overtime games. It's all pretty close. +3, 0, -1, -2. So a little bit strange how that group went. I think most people probably have Liquid as the best looking team in the tournament, like the favorite to win the tournament. And after today, maybe that will be changed up a little bit. If people are changing up their rankings after the first day. So let's take a look at the next group, Group C. So the purported group of death, and this one's quite close as well. We just have it's a little bit lopsided in that G2 has 4 points, W7M has 2 points, but both the middle teams have 3 points. So almost as even as you can get, I suppose. The next step less even than the previous group. So right, Heroic and Dark Zero on 3-3. Dark Zero back to their overtime ways. Both of their games went to overtime. Let's look at the games. And right, they were the very first game, so they beat G2. And both of these times, I believe Dark Zero was on 6-5, so they had the chance to make it to get the full 3 points to make it to 7-5. And they missed out both times. They did end up beating G2 in the 15th round, and they ended up losing to W7M in the 14th round. So what I've been hearing, and my understanding of it, is that the teams playing at the event against the teams that aren't playing at the event, so, or not physically, I suppose. So W7M and Team 1 and Furia are playing remotely from Mexico. They're I don't know if this is like technically the right way to say it. They're VPNing in, like that might not be strictly correct, but they're playing on the land. So basically, everybody at Charlotte is playing on LAN, and then everyone not at Charlotte, those three teams are playing online, like they're playing with ping. So effectively 0 ping for say in this matchup Dark Zero, whereas W7M I've been hearing it's like 60 or 80 ping. So that's basically just an advantage for the team playing at the event, which I mean I think you'd rather have the advantage for the team playing there in person versus the other team. But it's not always a strict advantage. In Siege, sometimes the player with higher ping is advantaged, but I think more often it's usually the player with the lower ping. So it's annoyingly swingy. I thought going into it that they were going to be playing on a different server, which should give them about equal ping, but I guess maybe this way makes more sense. I'm not sure. We'll see. I'm sure there will be a lot of people talking about it as the event continues and after the event and whatever. And so keep that in mind whenever W7M or Team One or Furia plays, but it doesn't seem like it's been that big a factor, or at least not like noticeably so. Okay, so anyways, W7M do end up taking down Dark Zero, and I think some people were saying that is a bit concerning, the fact that W7M is playing with this handicap and still beating Dark Zero, but I don't know, maybe it's not even as big of a handicap as people are claiming. Okay, so continuing on, G2 beat Heroic 7-3, a little bit surprising. Heroic beat G2 in the regular season, and G2's looking pretty good. I think a lot of people, and maybe most people even, had G2 not making out of the groups, and also just in like last place in the group. They didn't look awful in EUL. Of course, they made it to this event. They were 4th place. But they didn't look as good, I think, as a lot of people expected. Tons of people had them like top 2 or 3 in power rankings and stuff coming into the stage, and yeah, they just didn't really live up to it, getting again 4th place. But yeah, they're looking pretty good. Almost beating Dark Zero. A little bit sloppy game on both ends, I'd say, and well, it ended up costing G2 at the end. I guess Alamau was celebrating prematurely, and that affected his teammates. So unfortunate way to lose in round 15. But maybe a little bit of a John. I don't know to what extent he was yelling. And okay, so yeah, G2 beating Heroic 7-3 is impressive. You do have to keep in mind Heroic had a lot of struggles traveling. They got here very late and they lost like all their luggage, or their luggage hadn't got here yet. I don't know if they'll actually get it eventually, but so a lot of struggles for them there, and so a lot less comfortable, and so maybe they'll get better as things go, because a ton of people did have Heroic making it to like top 4, top 2, or even winning the event. So let's see if they bounce back, but for now G2 is on top of this group. And then one more game, Heroic did beat W7M. So, I mean, Heroic lost 3-7 to G2, but they beat W7M 7-3, putting W7M at the bottom of the group. Maybe W7M was a bit overrated. They were incredible in the regular stage, losing only 1 game, and it was in round 15 against not even a very good team in the very last day, so when it didn't really matter. So did they even try that hard in that game? I don't know. And then they didn't get 1st place in their bracket in the Copa Elite 6, but they got 2nd place. So maybe they really are being hindered by the playing with the ping thing, or I mean, maybe Heroic just needed 1 game to get warmed up. Whatever it is, I mean, a lot of these things we'll probably figure out in the next day or two. And then, right, one more group to look at. So Group D, Astralis, Wolves, BDS, and Chiefs. And I think this group is pretty well panning out how it was expected, except for that Wolves is above BDS. I put BDS in 1st place and with Astralis in 2nd, but I think it could also be flipped. Probably more people had Astralis, BDS, Wolves, and Chiefs in that order. And so just Wolves 1 point above BDS. And so if BDS does want to make it out of this group, it's going to be imperative that they do well against Wolves, and similarly, Wolves will need to do well against BDS. It's possible that even if they lose to them, if things go a certain way in their other matches, that they could still make it out of the group. But right, Wolves play. Let's look at the matches. Yeah, Wolves played against Chiefs, and Wolves played against Astralis, and same thing for BDS. They played against Chiefs and Astralis, and Wolves beat Chiefs more convincingly than BDS did. And they both lost to Astralis, but Astralis smoked BDS, whereas it went all 15 rounds against Wolves. And it was even a little bit of a comeback. I had to do something during the game, but I watched like the first 5 rounds or something, and I think it was 4-1 Wolves, and then Astralis took a round, and then, I mean, I guess they went to overtime and ended up winning it, but right, they did come back from like a 4-1 deficit or something. So good on them there. Yeah, Astralis is on the highest number of points, I believe. I think they're the only one on 5. So Oxygen, the only team to have not missed out on a point yet, and Astralis on the most points total, and also the only other team to have not lost. So they did miss out on a point because they went to overtime, but Oxygen, yeah, I guess has only played the one game, and so their one win is good enough to be flawless at the moment. So, right, I guess how the groups are shaping up, yeah, I mean, it looks like Astralis Wolves are the favorites at the moment with the way things have gone, but still more games to be played. And then Group C, I guess, you know, even G2 is a little bit the favorite here based on the fact that they have 4 points. W7M going to have to bounce back, but this is anybody's group, and same thing for this one, but even more so, this is entirely anybody's group. And then this one, it's looking quite grim for the Direwolves, but they're only one game in, but they don't have that many more games to play. So only 3 more games, and they're going to have to do pretty well. They're going to have to, of course, probably beat Team 1 in the rematch, and then maybe even do well against Oxygen, depending on how things go. And I guess that does it. I was going to maybe look at the stats, but it's only been like 1 day, so it's really not even that interesting. And the video's already like 10 minutes long, so probably good enough. So that is the first day of the major. I'll probably have a similar video tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. And with all of that being said, I will catch you guys in that next video.